welcome to episode 24 of Chatting Up the Chick. Yes, it's your host, Chris the Chick, all the way here in Cluckingham Palace with his dodgy, cheap computer and his headset microphone, which is rubbish. Yes, rubbish. Right, this week I've come back to the podcast world because I wanted to talk about something that's happened recently to me. And I want to call this episode The Highs and Lows of Life. Now, I'm sure many of you out there, actually I think everyone has to some degree a understanding of the highs and lows of life and how they come about. For me, this last 2 weeks has really illustrated for me how life can be so topsy-turvy. It can be so beautiful to you one day and a mean taskmaster the next day. A mean taskmaster. So, as many of you know, yeah. As many of you know, I am what I call I've been deconstructing from my religious journey that I started almost 10 years ago, to the point now where I don't classify myself as anything. If I was, I would still call myself a Jesus follower, but my life isn't specifically geared around just Jesus. It's also geared around everything that's good in this world. And it's been a hard journey for me. But at the same time, I've still managed to hold on to some of my Christian roots, part of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and I'm part of a drama group that goes around mainly we do stuff in churches, but we also do a lot of work with young adults and the youth, which I love. I just love being around young people. Um, I still feel like a young person myself. I've actually got a podcast I wanted to do that I have recorded called "It's Okay to Be 40." So watch out for that bad boy. But yeah, I just love being around young people, just because they tend to have a more pure look and feel for the world rather than a more cynical, pessimistic, life's a bunch of beep kind of thought processes that I have with a lot of people my age. And I'm not dissing them. I totally understand how you become cynical and pessimistic. Like, why wouldn't you in the world that we live in? There's just way too much crap going on, that especially when the world is just so geared towards negativity. Why would people be positive? Like, of course, it stands to reason. But I went away this last about 2 weeks now, 2 weeks ago. I went up north to Rotorua, Tauranga, and Hamilton as part of a week of, I don't know what you can call it. I don't want to use the term revival because that's just a trigger point for me. But it was a group of 23 of us that went into some Seventh-day Adventist schools where we got to know the kids. We joined them in the classroom. We joined them at recess. We played games with them. I had the awesome opportunity of being asked to help some children with a drumming lesson. And I'll just let you in with a secret here. Let me bring the microphone in a bit closer. I taught myself how to play the drums, and I probably got more bad habits than a 2-year-old. Right, but it was fun anyway. It was fun, and part of that trip as well, we did some like gardening work for the schools. We pulled out this big bank of plants where they want to. I don't know if they're going to I hope they're going to replant it. At one point, I had to pull out a silver fern tree, and oh man, I was having a terrible time. I was talking to it, saying, "Sorry, buddy, please don't hate you know." Like this is how much of a connection I have to the environment now. But look, sometimes, look, I just hope they put something in that will reinvigorate the environment because when we got there, it wasn't very invigorated. Let's put it that way. So as well as doing that, we also went to a local church in the evening and we was doing some drama stuff. Some people were giving their personal testimonies with issues that they were struggling with in their life, like mental health issues and stuff like that. Real kind of authentic, powerful stuff. Like I love the authenticity, especially some of these young people. They just, I don't want to say they didn't give a shit because that's not the right term to use, but there was something there that just permeated the whole church where they were like, wow, yes, this is authenticity. This is getting to the nitty gritty of life that we should be dealing with on a day-to-day basis of helping people and getting people through the hard times and making sure that everyone has what they need. And you know the whole deal with me. I love that kind of stuff. Excuse me, I'm just having a bit of cup of tea. So yeah, I had spiritually, man, I was uplifted. Absolutely uplifted. Uh, I had such a big smile on my face, and I never realised that I could become even closer friends with the people I was already friends with, and the people I didn't know. Like, I just felt so uplifted. I felt so like uh, I know it's kind of weird to say things like this, but I could have died there and then and not be too bothered. Like it was. I felt that good. I managed to stay up for a few days afterwards, only because it was so hardcore. Like we was going to bed at midnight every night and getting up between 5 and 6 in the morning, and then going off and doing a whole day of socializing and working, and it was just nuts. Like it doesn't compare to the time I was at a Jewish camp in 2005 on Camp America, where I was there for almost 3 months. And with the kids 24/7, that was nuts. Like I went insane then. But the whole point that I wanted to talk about that was what happened when I came back. So I am a fond lover of animals, and I have animals myself. I've got rabbits, ducks, birds. Um, if there's an animal to be rescued, I'll rescue it. That's what I'm trying to say. And the sad thing is that when I came back, the day I came back, um, I came from the airport and my wife had been looking after one of our rabbits who was sick and she had sent it to the vet and it was in the vet for the day being checked on. So I walked from the airport to where my wife works. I love walking, it blisters and all. And when I got there, she was like, "Oh, Sammy, that's our rabbit. Sammy's really ill and she's at the vet's." Um, And as we went to go and get something to eat for lunch, we got a phone call from the vet, and the vet was like, "Look, you need to come in. We need to discuss Sammy." So in we went, and basically, without going into the nitty gritty, she was at the end of her life. She had fluid in her lungs. She was in the latter stages of ovarian cancer. Um, we got in there and she was like hooked up to a ventilator, like animal intensive care, and it was, man, it was the most heartbreaking thing because this rabbit was, sorry, another sip. This rabbit was a rescue rabbit, and it was she was found on the road probably about 4 years ago. So we took her in, and she was very pensive. She didn't like us coming near her. It took ages for her to even acknowledge us. It was it was a weird beginning to a relationship between a human and a rabbit. But as time went on, like I would come home I'd make sure I came home early from work, especially during the winter, to let my rabbits out so they can run around the garden and get some exercise. And I still remember coming back and she'd see me and she'd get so excited that I was there ready to let her out. She'd be running up and down a little run, jumping up and down, putting her paws up, ready to get out. And it was little things like that that just made everything worthwhile. Like, and people will say, "Oh, but it's just a rabbit." You know, to me, it's not just a rabbit, and it never will be. Um, with any animal, I don't care what it is. Like, I'm the kind of person that won't even kill a fly. Literally, if a fly is in the house and it's annoying me, I'll shepherd it out. I won't try and kill it. I just don't see the point in ending a life. For me, it's just it goes against every fiber in my body because I want to be about life. So unfortunately, the vet, um, through her wisdom and years of veterinariness, whatever you, I don't know the word, being a vet, she said, look, there's we could do this, that, and the other, and Sammy survives for another week or two, but she'll be in a lot of pain, and it won't be nice. So we was left with that difficult decision to put her to sleep. And I'm not gonna lie, um, man, I was so choked up. Like I've never, like I lost my mum when I was 22, and that was hard. And look, I'm not saying the death of a rabbit was worse than the death of my mum. I'm not even going to make that comparison. But the pain, the hurt, and the sadness was so real for me. Like it was so real. I I, I was trying so hard to hold back tears. Um, I don't know whether it was for me or for my wife who was there crying, but when we went to take her home, I wanted to say a little prayer for our dear little Sammy. And I was in the car, and I think I said two lines, and that was it. Boom. I was just, I was just a total mess, just in tears. And yeah, I suppose this podcast is also just a reminder for me that love comes with a massive price, but yet it's a price worth paying. Like I've come to appreciate feeling hurt, feeling pain, and feeling the sadness of loss. Because without it, you don't appreciate when you have it, if that makes sense. And then, oh man, 2 days later, this is like literally 2 days later, our other rabbit becomes seriously ill, completely unrelated. Um, just one morning, I came in and the rabbit was just stuck in the corner. I tried to move the rabbit, Harry. Harry was having a bar of it. So I've got some of his favourite food, couldn't care less. And I thought, man, this rabbit is seriously ill. Alison took that rabbit into the same vets 2 days after our other rabbit had died. And like they're like, yeah, your rabbit's seriously ill. We need to do something here. So they ended up doing a surgery on Harry, and there was a 50-50 chance that he would pull through. And I was just like, oh my word, like, like how did, and it's the normal typical response, like how has this happened? Like how what are the chances that two rabbits you're so fond of, because they're both rescue rabbits, one dies and then 2 days later another one almost dies? Thankfully, praise God, I don't use that term flippantly, like I don't use it at all. But in this circumstance, I was like, wow, he managed to pull through. and he's now on the mend. I'm actually here with him now, looking after him. And oh man, I just that Friday when he was going through surgery, I just felt like a shell of a human being. I was like, wow, how does this happen? Why does it happen? That was the big one for me. Why? Why? And look, I know there's all the answers out there to why there's pain and suffering on the earth, especially from a religious perspective. But I'm not really interested in those religious answers anymore. And look, I know there's not going to be an answer. And I have to lie in that mystery of why there's pain and suffering. But I can still ask the question. Do you know what I mean? I can still ask it. Why is this happening? And for me, asking that question gives me purpose afterwards. So now I'm like, well, it happens, Chris, and we have to accept that. But what can we do to make sure we mitigate that kind of suffering? And for me, I came up with an epiphany that week away, the happy week I had. I started realizing, and it's a very simple like epiphany, but it's really kind of resonated with me because I spent a long time trying to deconstruct from my religious um, uh, indoctrination in terms of what people think a Christian should be. And so it was always based around saving people. But for me, like if you're going to be a Christian and you're going to take the words of a book seriously, and like the whole discussion over what is the Bible and what relevance does it have and stuff like that, that's a very good question, and we can argue different things all day long. But if you're going to take the word seriously, you'll find that one of the first things that humankind was told to do was to go and look after the world, look after the earth. Because if you have a bad environment, which we're creating right now as humans, you're going to have unhealthy humans. It stands to reason. If you have a healthy environment and everyone is thriving within that environment, then you're going to have healthy humans as well. Like, it's a very simple premise, but it's one that's really resonated with me now and made me realize, you know what? My love for the environment, nature, animals needs to now take another step forwards. Because if we're not looking after the environment, nature, and animals, then we're not looking after ourselves. Simple as that. Bang. Do you know what? I'm going to leave the podcast right there. Thank you very much for listening to Chatting Up the Chick. Yes, yes, yes.